since you were the one person to have met with him, you didn't ask him?
The president of the United States, his signal policy, the one that actually is working the best for him, is immigration. On the polling, President Trump's immigration policy is highly popular. It's not just because Americans are sick and tired of the open borders policy of the Biden administration. It's also because Democrats continue to take the worst possible tack when it comes to this sort of stuff. The tack they should be taking on immigration right now is that President Trump is right to close the border, that President Trump is correct to unleash ICE to go find criminal illegal immigrants and deport them, but we need to obey the law. That would be the actual smart approach to this particular issue. But Democrats have decided that the smart approach is to shove their heads directly up their own And so what that means is that they are instead basically going out of their way to praise MS-13 members and suggest that President Trump is wrong to try and deport all of those people. And this leads to the awkward situation of absolute dolt Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, who has the IQ of a turnip, going down to El Salvador to meet with a man named Kilmer Abrego Garcia, who is a likely MS-13 member and an alleged wife beater by his wife, okay? Like, not a good guy. And he was deported to El Salvador. Again, that was done mistakenly according to the Trump DOJ. And that was a process issue. Okay, so the way that the Democrats should have protested that is they should have said, listen, everybody deserves due process. If you are here on a green card, you deserve whatever the due process is for a green card holder. If you are here as an illegal immigrant, you deserve whatever due process is due to you under the law. And due process shouldn't be violated. It's sacrosanct in the United States. That's the argument they should have made. Instead, because they have it's an internal emotional necessity to valorize people who are quote unquote victims of the Trump administration, they've decided to treat people who are actually quite bad with sympathy, which leads to the awkward spectacle of Chris Van Hollen being asked if the person he visited down in El Salvador and had drinks with was MS-13, and he can't answer the question.
Well, Dana, what Donald Trump is trying to do here is change the subject. The subject at hand is that he and his administration are defying a court order to give Abrego Garcia his due process rights. They are trying to litigate on social media what they should be doing in the courts. They need to put up or shut up in the courts.
But since you were the one person to have met with him, and since this is a thing, you say on social media, it's what we hear from Donald Trump and Republicans every day, all day long, you didn't ask him?
I didn't ask him that because I know what his answer is. What he told me was he was sad and traumatized that he was being in prison because he has committed no crimes.
Okay. Sad and traumatized, the likely MS-13 member. Great job there, Chris Van Hollen. You can see he's trying to backtrack now. Now he's trying to turn it into a due process argument. Again, the due process argument is a better argument for Democrats. It just is. The Supreme Court, over the course of the last 72 hours, handed out an order this early Saturday morning, 7-2. They handed down just an order. There was no actual text to the order. It didn't explain its reasoning, but it ordered the Trump administration to respond to an emergency appeal and said the government is directed not to remove any members of the putative class of detainees from the United States until further order of this court. That would be the people who are being detained under the so-called Alien Enemies Act, which is an 18th century act designed at allowing the expeditious removal of people who are declared wartime enemies by the executive branch of the government. Now, there was a dissent by Justices Alito and Justice Thomas in this particular case, saying, quote, shortly after midnight yesterday, the court hastily and prematurely granted unprecedented emergency relief. Although the order does not define the putative class, it appears the court means all members of the class the habeas petitioner sought to have certified, namely all non-citizens in custody of the Northern District of Texas who were, are, or will be subject to the March 2025 presidential proclamation entitled Invocation of the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States by Tren de Aragua. And then they criticized the court for doing all this, even though it's not clear the court had jurisdiction. It's questionable whether the applicants complied with their obligation to seek emergency injunctive relief in the district court. The Court of Appeals was already considering the issue of emergency relief. The papers alleged that the applicants were in imminent danger of removal, but there was no concrete support for that suggestion. If you're a homeowner, you should listen to this. Did you know somebody can literally steal your house? This is real, and it does happen. A scammer can forge your signature in one document, use a fake notary stamp, and spend about $40 to file that at the county recorder's office. Then they take out loans by using your home as collateral, which unlocks all the value in your home. You won't even know that that's happening until you start getting collection and foreclosure notices in the mail. Most people don't check on their home title once escrow closes. That's why it's critical to find out right now if you're already a victim by heading on over to Home Title Lock. HomeTitleLock.com. They'll give you a free title history report, provide you with $1 million triple lock protection to help keep your home and equity safe. That is one of the reasons I recommend Home Title Lock. Many people, including our senior video editor, Adam, trust Home Title Lock to protect their assets. If you want a feeling of safety and security about this particular issue, Home Title Lock makes it happen for you the same way it does for Adam. You get 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud does happen, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title. When you go to HomeTitleLock.com, go there right now, use promo code Shapiro, you get free 14-day trial and title history report. Find out if you're already a victim. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Shapiro. So, Alito and Thomas both complained, in some literally in the middle of the night. The court issued unprecedented and legally questionable relief without giving the lower courts a chance to rule, without hearing from the opposing party, within 8 hours of receiving the application, with dubious factual support for its order, and without providing any explanation for its order. I refused to join the court's order because we had no good reason to think that under the circumstances, issuing an order at midnight was necessary or appropriate. Now, again, I think what the rest of the court would say is, we wouldn't think that was necessary or appropriate either, except for the fact that we've now had situations in which the Trump administration has allegedly ignored the orders of lower courts not to do a deportation and then just did the deportation. That's the argument that is being made on the other side of the aisle. Now, one of the things that should become clear to Republicans at this point is that doing things in meticulous fashion is likely to lead to longer lasting victories than doing them as sort of one-offs and in quick fashion. Because on the morality, the Trump administration is not only correct, they are unbelievably correct. Tom Homan, who's our bulldog border czar, criticized, for example, Chris Van Hollen for his sympathy for MS-13 members, saying how many angel moms and dads has he met with?
What shocks me is he's remained silent on the travesty that happened on our southern border. Many people died. Thousands of people died. I've met with hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children that were murdered by illegal alien. How many angel moms and dads has he met in the state of Maryland? That's what concerns me.
Again, on the politics, Republicans are right. But do the law right also, and you'll have longer lasting victories, because otherwise, many of the things the Trump administration is trying to do are going to get reversed on appeal. And that would be really bad for the Trump administration as well. Again, I'm rooting for the Trump administration to do all of this right so its policies actually work. The same thing holds true with regard to Harvard. So the Trump administration is admirably going after the endowment of Harvard University, which is great. They should. Harvard University is a travesty. Again, that is my alma mater. I went there for law school. They're very rich. Okay, there's no reason why Harvard University should be treated with kid gloves. Their endowment is $53 billion. Massive endowment. I mean, these major universities have the GDPs of small countries. It's unbelievable. The Trump administration, according to the Wall Street Journal, has now grown so furious with Harvard University after a week of an escalating dispute between the two sides, it is planning to pull an additional $1 billion of the school's funding for health research, according to people familiar with the matter. Trump administration officials thought the long list of demands they sent Harvard last Friday was a confidential starting point for negotiations. Instead, Harvard released the letter to the public. Before Monday, the administration was planning to treat Harvard more leniently than it had Columbia University. Now officials want to apply even more pressure to the nation's most prominent university, according to those people. There's a lot of talk about the attempt to remove nonprofit status from Harvard University. The task force thought Harvard would concede. Instead, Harvard decided to make itself the centerpiece of this issue. Now, the Trump administration could have won a very easy victory here, and they still may win a victory here. It'll be harder fought. They could easily have simply said to Harvard University that unless it complied with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, the necessary consequences would follow. Its aid would go away, for example, and then been very meticulous about the list they put forward. And so they put forward a very broad list of things they wanted Harvard University to do, including reconstitute its board, reconstitute its professoriate. And listen, those are all things that are good and should happen to Harvard University. Absolutely. Will they be upheld in a court of law? That is a little unclear. Again, Harvard, for all the problems with Harvard, there's some good lawyers who work there and very expensive lawyers who work there. I want to see the Trump administration's measures against Harvard University maintained, which is, again, why meticulousness should be the order of the day.
Well, that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Be sure to check out all of the other great content on my channel. I'll see you here next time.